What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and I got another Tiny Tina's Wonderlands video for you guys. In this one, we're going to be talking about the Chaos Chamber and the Mirrors of Mystery, which are both the end game and future content for Tiny Tina's. Before we do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel for more Tiny Tina's Wonderlands coverage. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I wanted to put this kind of both of these different reveals. We kind of got both of them back to back in the last week or so. But I wanted to put them both into one video because they both kind of embody the end game slash future, post-campaign type content for Tiny Tina's. We were all kind of wondering, we know how Borderlands are. They always have awesome stories with funny voice acting and all that good stuff. But, myself included and a lot of people were wondering, like, what's the end game look like? And, for Borderlands games in the past, it's usually just been a lot of, boss type fights, right? A lot of different raid, quote unquote, bosses. That you just kind of fight over and over again. And Borderlands 3 kind of broke the mold on that a little bit by having like the takedowns and, different things like that. But in this, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands has gone full throttle. This is totally a Borderlands fan's dream, and really the dream of like any looter shooter player is to have a mode like the Chaos Chamber. Now, the Chaos Chamber is an infinitely repeatable end game dungeon. It is completely random. All right. And it is going to be your main focus for end game content following the campaign. So the dungeon itself, they say, takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. And it's basically going to be 3 randomized dungeon rooms, then a boss fight, then 3 more randomized dungeon rooms, followed by a final fight. And every single one of those rooms is completely random, right? So you're going to face 3 different rooms with different objectives. There is a limit to how many different objectives, but they said it's going to be quite a lot. It's going to be like over 60 or 70 different layouts, and there's going to be more layouts coming and more bosses coming. So like you'll never get the same exact order of the same exact objectives twice, really, or it'll be pretty tough to, right? So pretty much every time you go through this, it's going to be a new experience, right? So you're going to do 3 rooms, a boss, 3 rooms, a boss, and that's it. Like I said, 20 to 30 minutes, but different every time. Now, there's going to be more to it, right? You're going to be collecting crystals as you go. And these crystals you'll get, through enemies. The harder the enemies, the more crystals you'll get. And then there's going to be a little bit of, RNG, luck-based, rolling some dice, things like that. Long story short, you get these crystals. The more crystals you have at the end, the more loot you're going to be able to get, all right? But in addition to that, you can actually buy what are called blessings. So you can spend some of your crystals throughout the run to get buffs that last you through the whole rest of the run to make things, a little easier for you, right? Conversely, you can do what are called curses, right? So before you even start the run, you can kind of crank up the difficulty. So think of like the heat meter from like Hades, right? Where you can actually add modifiers to make the run more and more difficult. But the more difficult you make it, the more crystals are going to drop, right? So you kind of got to give and take, and like I said, no 2 runs are going to be different. When you do complete the run, the harder it was, the more crystals you had, you're going to get a ton of loot. And then you can actually target the loot that you get. You can spend some of the crystals at the end to say, I really want to, get a couple of rocket launchers, or I really want to get like a machine gun or a shield or a spell, whatever. You can target the loot that you get, and the more crystals you accumulate to be able to spend in kind of the end loot room, the more loot you're going to get, right? In addition, the other big thing you get from doing this is what are called moon orbs, right? Which is an in-game currency that you can spend on what's called the enchantment re-roller in Brighthoof, which is kind of like the game Sanctuary. Now, the enchantment re-roller basically, as it sounds, it's a reroll system, but it'll reroll the enchantment effect on a piece of gear, right? So we don't know exactly what's what with that, but I assume it'll be something similar to Anoints, right, from Borderlands 3. But you'll be able to kind of reroll to really min-max like a really good roll piece of gear that you have. And the more times you re-roll it, the more moon orbs it's going to cost. But every time you do this dungeon, you're going to get more and more moon orbs. So this to me seems like an unbelievably awesome end game piece of content, kind of like a Diablo style Nephilim Rifts, like just an infinitely replayable. You can just jump in either solo or with friends. And just run these over and over. It sounds super awesome. I can guarantee you this is definitely going to be something I'm going to be hyped for. I'm going to be doing a ton of these, right? With viewers on stream, without, etc., whatever. And then another cool thing they're doing, this kind of goes into like the live service element of the game. Now, I don't want to call the game a live service, quote unquote, because people get some, bad taste with that. But basically, every week they're going to have kind of a curated run, a seeded run, if you will, that anytime you do it, it's going to be the same. No matter who does it, right? So if I do it, you do it. Like we're going to do the weekly run, right? And it's always going to be the exact same run, the exact same modifiers, and they're basically going to have a leaderboard. How cool is that, right? So they're going to have a leaderboard for your, fastest completions, who can kind of do it the fastest, and it's going to be the same for everybody. That's going to be really cool. I don't know, they didn't say anything about, rewards for like a top 100 or top 10 on a weekly basis, but I can tell you I'm not the fastest player myself, but I'm definitely going to be looking into that, trying to get into that top 100 every week. So that will be pretty cool. So really, really sweet. And that brings us over to the season pass details, the first DLC, which is the Mirrors of Mystery. Now, I say Mirrors of Mystery, that actually is going to be kind of the DLC as a whole, right? So there's going to be 4 different mirrors, quote unquote, in the main area of Brighthoof, kind of out on the side. And there's going to be a new NPC by the name of Vesper, who's basically, there's going to be 4 different mirrors, if you will, right? And each one of them will essentially be the game's DLCs. So about a month after launch of the game, the first mirror is going to open up, right? And it's going to be kind of a story campaign. They haven't really spilled too much detail, but there's going to be a major boss at the end, right? Basically a dungeon with a major boss at the end of each, okay? And there's going to be obviously tons of new loot, all that good stuff. And then after the launch, every week after you beat, let's say like you do the dungeon, right, that comes with the first DLC, the first mirror, every week after that, the boss, as long as you beat the boss, the next week it's going to be a more powerful, different version of the final boss available each week. And you have to keep beating the harder version to unlock the next hardest level until you finally get to the top. They haven't revealed how many weeks it's going to take to do that. Obviously, the harder the fight, the better the loot, right? And then, they said getting all the way to the end, they haven't really revealed what that gets you, but they said obviously tons of loot, cosmetics, all that good stuff. And then there's actually going to be, basically every time you do it, you're going to get some what are called lost souls that you can use on like kind of a slot machine, which is called the Wheel of Fate for loot. So just long story short, tons and tons of loot. But it's really cool to me that these DLCs, they're already planning the first quote-unquote DLC. It's really going to be like the season 1, if you will, starting a month after launch of the game. That'll give people enough time to really, sink their teeth into the end game before jumping into this new content. But then the game also gives you that, something to do week after week, right? There's going to be you can do the Chaos Dungeons or the Chaos Chamber anytime, right? But every week there's going to be kind of that curated one that people are going to be vying for the top spot in the speedrun, leaderboards. And also every week there's going to be a new version of this, final boss from the DLC dungeon campaign that you're going to be able to do again for even more loot. In addition, the last thing is they're going to be adding a 7th class with the first DLC, okay? This is huge now because you remember in Borderlands 3, they didn't add any new subclasses or new classes or new characters or anything like that. They really just focused on the 4 games before that. They added characters, but it's going to be a lot more impactful in a game like Wonderlands because of the multi-class system, right? Every character is essentially a combination you can make. So when they add the 7th character, they're really adding essentially 6 new characters, right? Because that 7th character can pair with any of the starting 6. So the more characters they add over time, or I should say the more classes they add over time to this game, the more it's going to be exponentially more build possibilities available, all right? Which to me just kind of blows my mind. That's super, super insane to me. So really, really excited. And just, you know, my overall thoughts on this, and kind of the reason I put these both into one video, is just like, this is just what Borderlands fans are going to want. This game is basically just going to be Borderlands content just turned up to 12, right? Just completely on steroids. The end game is going to be there. There's going to be reasons to just come back and grind this game more and more and more and over. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to start covering this game, doing build guides, doing live streams, playing with viewers, doing runs of the Chaos Chamber, everything, building all different classes, seeing all the different guns and wacky things that come in this game is going to be absolutely awesome. And you know, the fact that they're already planning ahead for DLCs, that's just year one. We don't know what the future holds, but if this game is an absolute banger, they're probably going to go with like a season 2, right? Like a next season pass for a whole nother year. And if they're adding more classes, obviously more loot, more bosses, more dungeon type stuff, I could totally see this game being like a long-term game that you can just keep grinding. So really, really excited. Cannot wait for this one to come out 25th of March. And definitely, like I said, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll be coming at you with all the different build videos, live streams, playing with viewers, all that good stuff. That's it for me, those guys. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.